So,
In the last 10 years, the animation audience has skewed younger. If you read on the social, you find, the new seasons of Winx are so much more childish. They don't know and they don't understand that we had to, because if we are now on Rai Yo-Yo in Italy, which is a good channel, but the target is up to 8 years old, you can't really do the kind of stories which you did on Rai 2 15 years ago. I think that for those kind of fun, which at 20 years old they still like to watch Winx cartoon, they will hopefully find their sweet spot side on the Netflix original Winx version, which is definitely maybe even more edgy and dark than what they can imagine for being used to very colorful world of Winx.
does anyone else hate this? If you're currently wondering why the hell Netflix is turning Winx Club into the next Riverdale, then you've probably been a fan of the franchise for some time now, or rather, you were a fan long ago and forgot about it until it appeared again in your social media. And you're probably wondering where all the magic, charm, and color went. In more ways than one. As a longtime fan of the franchise and someone who's made far too many videos about it for my own sanity, it's kinda surprising I'm just only now making a video specifically about the live-action series. And that's honestly because I've had literally no interest in it whatsoever, anticipating that it would turn out to be a dumpster fire since its announcement, but why is that? Well, today we're going to talk about that. For returning viewers, you probably know about the franchise's history from my past videos on it, but new viewers are going to get a crash course on the basics so that we can understand how the hell we got to this cursed place. You can also watch my videos about that as well. Do what you like. We'll cover how the franchise began, its several failed attempts at reaching English-speaking markets, and why Rainbow is now trying to turn the story into every other edgy, poorly written, heavily whitewashed reboot there is right now. Get some snacks, and if you're of legal drinking age, get some wine, 'cause we're in for a hell of a ride, fam. Winx Club is an Italian animated series produced by production company Rainbow SRL, as well as Rai Fiction. Most American fans will probably remember it either as a Nickelodeon show that mysteriously disappeared after a few years, or, if you're in your twilight and close to death like me, from the 4Kids dub around the mid-2000s. See, Winx Club has been dubbed by several companies, none of which have managed to dub the entire franchise. 4Kids changed a lot of plot details and character personalities, similar to how old English dubs would butcher Japanese anime when bringing it stateside. But that's how most older fans got into it, given it had wider distribution than the more faithful Cinelume dub. Eventually, 4Kids lost the license and went bankrupt, but Winx Club would have another shot thanks to Nickelodeon, whose parent company and Lords of Hellfire themselves, Viacom, purchased stock in Rainbow and agreed to co-produce the franchise with them.
Nickelodeon surely is a very well organized and professional company. We are very impressed also by the way they have react very quickly with the marketing plan in these few months. But beside this, we think that they know really how to market a brand and bring it to a success. When there's a ground, they definitely make it happen.
The first 2 seasons were made into 4 one-hour specials. Nick dubbed seasons 3 and 4 along with the first movie, and a year after introducing the show, premiered season 5. Though the Nick dub can be considered more faithful to the original, it also clearly was meant for a younger demographic than even the original series. Rainbow's Winx Club was similar to Disney's approach in media, where their content is meant to be enjoyed by all audiences, young and old, with a specific appeal to teenage audiences and hints at more mature storylines. Nickelodeon removed that, instead having the series appeal to younger audiences, most notably by resetting the Winx's ages. By the 4th season, the Winx had graduated from Althea and were young adults on their own, but season 5 saw them being quietly made 16 again and reinstated at Althea, so they might be more relatable to young kids, all while still trying to throw in lazy Easter eggs for older audiences who felt gypped. Suffice to say, a lot of fans were not happy with this, and over time, Nickelodeon's promotion of the franchise dwindled, to the point Season 6 ended as online-only releases in the States, and later was aired as reruns on Nick Jr. Season 7 was actually meant to be co-produced with Nick, but since then I've learned that Rainbow and Nick were still on good terms, and the co-production ended instead because of budgetary slashes. Season 7 was then dubbed by Duart Film and Video, and in the post-Nickelodeon era, Winx has felt aimless, unsure of who it's meant for or how it's going to reach them. Rainbow did attempt to appeal to older fans through the Netflix spin-off series World of Winx, which had a completely separate continuity from the main series, while the main series would be soft rebooted with an entirely new art style to appeal strictly to young kids. Unfortunately, both had their share of controversies with not only the declining writing quality, but also whitewashing of the diverse cast, and even stolen designs? Jesus Christ, Rainbow, what the hell? But World of Winx was presumably cancelled after its second season, while Season 8 faced so much backlash and little to no interest that it seemed the franchise was truly doomed. Which leads us to Rainbow's Hail Mary, Fate the Winx Saga. When the teaser dropped, my first response was, this does not look as awful as I thought it was gonna be. But the more that it sits with me, the more it does bother me, actually. The needless edginess, the lack of vibrant colors, the horrific fashion that the real Stella would never allow, and especially what's been done to the characters. Let's go over the broad changes this reboot's gonna be making, starting with the Winx themselves. We've still got Bloom, Stella, Musa, and Aisha, but Flora has been replaced by a character named Terra with the same powers. Why? No one knows. Part of me wants to say, given the actress' appearance, it might be to appease long-running criticisms of the girls' designs being paper-thin, which I actually think is a good move. I've downplayed that issue in the past, but it's important for kids, and for anyone really, to see a wide variety of characters in media, and that includes variety in body sizes and shapes. However, Flora was Hispanic Latina coded. Terra is white. We'll get to the whitewashing later, it's going to be its own section, but suffice to say I am absolutely not a fan of this change, given it seems its main purpose was having an excuse for a woman of color in the main cast to be replaced by a white woman. Tecna, meanwhile, has been completely removed, likely due to the perception that Tecna has always been the least favorite Winx. But it's not the Winx Club without Tecna.
It's just not the same without Tecna.
Maybe we should call it quits, you know? Like disband the club?
I hate to say this, but I agree.
Me too.
It's the right thing to do, guys.
I feel one of the main arguments may be that her powers and aesthetic may counter the edgy realism Rainbow's going for and the mysticism, but you're telling me that a hacker Tecna wouldn't be ridiculously edgy and cool? Sky is still present here, but whether he's a specialist is unknown to me, as well as the inclusion of Red Fountain and Cloud Tower, but the only returning ones seem to be Sky and Riven. The tricks, likewise, have been condensed into one villain named Beatrix. Yes, B-A-Trix. I hate it so much. The world is likewise entirely different. A huge factor that helped set Winx apart from other animated series, and especially other magical girl properties, was its world building filled with a unique blend of fantasy and sci-fi elements. Magic City looks less like Diagon Alley and more like a bustling metropolis of the distant future with flying cars.
This is it? Magic? Capital of the realm of magic, most enchanted city in the universe?
Well, what did you expect?
With dragons, gnomes, wizards, shops full of magic wands.
That's fairy tale stuff. This is the real world.
And the story went well beyond magics to other vibrant worlds like the frozen wastes of Domino, sun-drenched Celeria, the lush forests of Linfea, and more. Instead, we have the Otherworld, which is some generic-looking forest from every other modern paranormal story. And Alfea has been changed from the iconic pink castle to this budget Hogwarts-looking mess. The sci-fi elements are completely gone, and Winx feels less like itself and more like it's trying to emulate its contemporaries and suffering as a result. I don't even think there are any transformation sequences, which is a crime. A huge part of the fun of the franchise, even in the newer seasons, is experiencing the new transformation sequences and songs, and most of all, relishing in the new fairy designs. But that's all gone now, and the girls' fashion is likewise awful. What the hell are these outfits? And what are these color schemes? Stella would burn down the entire Otherworld just looking at this dreary dumpster fire. So Winx no longer feels like Winx. Rainbow is so desperate to pander to an imagined demographic that it has completely lost sight of what Winx fans have been craving, which is a huge mistake if their goal was to make something just for the older fans who've been unhappy with the franchise up until this point. It's essentially like throwing sand into their eyes for years, and then you promise to do right by them, only to pepper spray them when they let their guard down. If I had to explain to Rainbow very clearly why fans haven't been enjoying all of this, it's because we never wanted an edgy Winx. What we wanted was something true to the first 4 seasons, something that appealed to all audiences, but definitely had mature storylines that could be enjoyed by teens and older audiences. And likewise, a story that grew up with its viewers. Maybe the main series continues growing up with the Winx, and then you have another story based on other fairies or other characters in the magical universe that's a little bit more kiddie, or not even kiddie, just has the same tone as the first 4 seasons. But none of this is even the worst offender. That title belongs to the Whitewashing. Whitewashing is the practice of taking characters of marginalized backgrounds, or coded as such, and lightening their skin and/or removing their marginalized status or other identifiers. It effectively makes them either white passing or fully white, usually as an attempt to make them more appealing to broader audiences, which in corporate talk means white audiences. Winx was originally praised for its diversity, with half of the club being women of color. Musa as Asian coded, Flora as Hispanic Latina coded, and Aisha as Black coded. Coded meaning that since they're not from Earth, they technically don't explicitly match up with the racial categories we have in the real world, but they're designed and written in a way to evoke those races as to represent them in fiction. Winx does have a troubled past with depictions of race, namely with a racist joke during a very problematic pageant episode in the first season where a black woman's hair is made to resemble an afro, and that, according to the story, makes her upset because she's no longer conventionally beautiful. This episode has actually been removed from YouTube and essentially banned, but the scars remained. At the very least, 4Kids had the decency to change it so that the girl's hair wasn't the issue, it was her voice being made squeaky. So thank you, 4Kids, you did a good. And this did not exist at all in the Nick version, since this plot was entirely skipped over in the specials, which was also a good move. But for the most part, Winx has generally strived to do better after this, especially with Aisha being the best written, most interesting of the Winx, and a proactive, kick-ass, and beautiful black princess. There are still issues where she faces far more hardships than the rest of the Winx, especially with her fiancé Naboo, who is black and Indian coded, dying in the 4th season after they're finally happy, which kill me. But the show also normalizes interracial relationships, which we stand in this cardboard box we call a house.
Oh, we stand.
We stand.
Oh, we
I stand. Oh, we stand.
But for the last few seasons, starting in the Nick era, the series began an art style dubbed Fairy Couture, for promotional material that features more washed out pastel colors, which had the effect of lightening all of the characters' skin colors, including Flora and Aisha, who naturally have brown and black skin respectively. This escalated eventually in World of Winx, where the Fairy Couture art style was fully adopted into the animation, resulting in Aisha looking even lighter than Flora in the main series, and Flora's skin being lightened to the point she easily passes for white. And this was also the case for the new Season 8 art style, which actually is even more egregious on Flora's part. Now, I have been guilty of downplaying these issues by trying to play both sides, saying that I believed Rainbow did not intend this. However, I was also a fucking clown. Intent does not even matter. The impact is what matters, and the impact is damaging. The girls have been whitewashed. There's no way around that. And frankly, whether Rainbow intended that doesn't even matter. It's completely unacceptable because representation in media matters. It shapes the way that we view ourselves and how we view the people around us. It normalizes marginalized people that maybe viewers may not know in real life, before the news media can demonize them. While for the marginalized, it helps them realize that they belong and can have happy stories of their own. And this also goes for representation of LGBT people, neurodivergent people, disabled people, and so on. The whitewashing has reached a horrible peak with the live-action series. Musa is portrayed by a white actress rather than an Asian one, in a media landscape where Asian actors already struggle to get roles white actors get with ease. Now this says not only can Asian actors not receive roles that don't center on their race or ethnicity specifically, but they also can't even get roles for characters meant to represent them. Aisha's casting is fine, thank the Lord, but Flora has been fully replaced by a white woman. And no, this is not acceptable. If anything, it confirms Rainbow has been trying to push Flora towards passing as white to reach the eventual point of fully replacing her with a white woman. It's gross and is a spit in the eye to not only the good points of the show's diversity in its earlier years, but also Latino, Hispanic, and Asian fans who saw themselves in Flora and Musa. So, yeah, this show's gonna suck. It's a shame that the franchise has gotten to this point where it's so clear that Rainbow just does not understand what fans loved about the show in the first place. Strophi's comments on needing to do things like this because only kids love animation is utterly untrue and reads as overly cynical. Disney's animated movies have always been for all audiences and enjoyed by kids as well as teens and adults. They resonate with all audiences because of their competent writing and deeper themes that resonate with everyone, and age like a fine wine as kids grow up with these stories and return to them when they need them in adulthood. Likewise, shows like Steven Universe, The Owl House, She-Ra, and many more have proven that animated series can likewise be enjoyed by all audiences. This idea that you have to skew younger for animation reads as a culmination of this Western idea that animation can only be for kids and family audiences, and no one else, and how animation is treated as a genre rather than a medium capable of so many different amazing stories for any audience. Anyways, rant over. If you enjoyed this mess and would like to see more content like this from me, including me probably bashing the show when it comes out, then be sure to check out my other Winx content, including my old documentary series of the franchise for a more in-depth history, as well as my videos rewriting Season 5 to feel like the older seasons, because I'm a lunatic, I will admit. Also be sure to subscribe and ring that bell for notifications because YouTube hates creators. And if you are willing and able, please consider also supporting the channel over on Patreon, as patrons get access to not only early content, but also the private Union of War Discord server. I'm the Unicorn of War, and the fate of the Winx saga looks depressingly grim and lacking in color of all kinds. If I had a mic to drop, I do have a mic on me, what am I saying? But I'd rather not drop it because I don't feel like risking it breaking. It's gonna suck.